Hi, and welcome back to Anonymous Animators. Today's interview is actually now known as Secret Origins, and that's the theme I'm going for from now on. I'm your host, Wesley Boone, and this is a new episode recorded on March 12th, 2016. I'm interviewing Chris Nyarady. He comes from Fredericton, New Brunswick in Canada, and I first met him on a production at Atomic Cartoons called Pirate Express.
Pirate Express. Yeah.
So, Chris is also the host of Geeks vs. Nerds, a podcast that I would highly recommend listening to because it is funny. A debate-style show, which he'll most likely get into a little bit later. So, let's hop straight into your interview, Chris.
Yay, it's me.
Yes, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Internet?
All right, so basically what I want to know, and I'm sure people who like listening to my Secret Origins / interviews, is how, when, and why you became an animator.
Goes way back because I've always as soon as I realized animators existed, that cartoons weren't real life.
Mm-hmm.
Once that I was able to differentiate that somebody made these.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that because the funnest times I had were waking up early on Saturday morning and watching cartoons. I just I like doing other things, but watching cartoons was always a highlight for me. So I was like, well, you always get that question when you're a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that was it. As soon as I realized that was a thing, I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do.
That's cool.
So there really wasn't a time that I didn't want to get into animation. And the tough part was, though, living in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is on the east coast of Canada. It's not even like Halifax, which is kind of a bigger city. Fredericton is a little smaller. And there's, of course, no animation scene in Fredericton, but also tough to really learn animation without leaving the city. So even though the interest was there for years and years, there wasn't any really way to get into animation other than learning it myself. So that's kind of what I did. I got eventually a copy of Flash. I think it was Flash 5. And I would mess around with it. And it wasn't until high school that I actually really get into doing proper animation. It was something that my high school grade in out east there's 12 grades in high school. So it was one from grade 11 where our English teacher did something called a semester project, where essentially she's like, the school can't teach you everything, and I'm sure there's something that you guys want to do. So spend a whole semester doing something that you want. And I'm like, okay, I'll make a cartoon. And I learned Flash from tutorials online, and
what limited online there was.
Yeah, it was hard and horrible. it was incredibly difficult. But it was interesting because it was me without any real help. And I made a cartoon called Earl the Talking Pie. That was kind of a character that I doodled a lot as a kid and throughout junior high and high school. And I got all my friends to do characters. There was about 6 of us. We all voiced characters, and I wrote the script. And it looks like crap. If I go back, you can probably still find some. I kept doing Earl the Talking Pie, but the original Earl the Talking Pie, the first one, was such a mess. I would tween stuff, and I didn't understand how to the characters would go perfectly vertical so you couldn't see them, then they tween out of it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't this was rudimentary Flash knowledge, trying to make symbols and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
also a misunderstanding of animation.
Yeah.
Because you think the computer will just do the tweening for you.
Yeah. And so I my mouth cycles were open and close mouths and that kind of stuff, and it was, of course, drawing with the mouths also.
Oh, yeah.
So it was blocks rubbing up against other blocks, essentially. But the class was very impressed because I guess no one attempted to do something like that in the project. A lot of people did musical projects or something like that, but they were just you made a cartoon, and I'm like, yeah, I did, and it felt good. And so grade 12, the different teacher did the same thing, a semester project, and that's when I really, because most of my time in that semester was spent just learning the craft of animation and learning how to use the software. I did a sequel, Earl the Talking Pie 2, in my grade 12 year, and that's when I redid all the characters, all the models, all the it's the same people voicing, but I wrote a new script, and I actually animate it. Like I did like walk cycles and stuff like that. I redrawed everything, and there's still a lot of tweening because I had to do a full cartoon in a semester, and that was still a lot of
you think
stress.
TV production is...
Oh yeah,
especially
since like the only help I got was my friends could voice some characters, and then I was me doing the scripts, doing the music, doing the sound effects, doing everything.
The animation, especially.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people don't. I mean, still, how many times do you see online like people talking? Like recently, the Rick and Morty thing is the most recent thing I saw. Is like people complaining about Rick and Morty not coming out in time.
Oh, whatever.
And so then
it's actually getting earlier. I mean, we're getting sidetracked, but it's coming out earlier than what.
Well, the Twitter was like, "Oh no, we're just holding it back just to piss you off." It's like people don't understand that there's like the guy. The guy actually said like, "Oh, how hard can it be to make a cartoon?"
Yeah.
And people just don't understand that it's more.
They don't understand. Oh, we're so tortured.
Tortured artists.
Yeah, but it was like primarily then what my number one influence was Flash cartoons online, because that was when Newgrounds kind of had a big boom. I looked at cartoons, certain artists that were very much more symbol based, like Legendary Frog on Newgrounds, and there was another show called College University. Those guys now do like cartoons for Dorkly and College Humor and that kind of stuff. But a lot of these, like, they were doing shows that I would want to watch on TV, but they were all themselves. It was usually one or two people, and not the best looking cartoons, but I'm like, they still could do it by themselves. So that kind of like motivated me in a situation where I was, where it's like, I don't have the resources, it's just me. That gave me a bit of like confidence to go out there and try doing my own animation.
Well, that being said, like a lot of like the most popular Newgrounds cartoons weren't necessarily the most well animated or the most well drawn. It was the ones that told a really funny story or a really good story.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of like Renaissance artists, essentially. Well, not Renaissance as in Renaissance stuff, but Renaissance people who could put on multiple hats, because you had to. You had to be a good businessman. You had to be funny. You had to know like good voice acting, because a lot of times you'd have like funny animation with shit voice acting or something like that. So it's like you had to do everything, and so something's gonna suffer.
Yeah.
You can't do everything perfectly. If you are, I hate you, and you're awesome.
There's always that one guy though who could, but you know.
Oh, I can think of a couple of ones on Newgrounds that were like those, like a Brackwood series, I think. They were fucking amazing, and hate him, but I love him. It was so beautiful. Yeah, so that was kind of my early history with animation. I think what, like, I didn't get into pursuing animation really seriously for another, like, after high school I went to university, which I didn't quite, like 20s, you don't really know what you're doing. And I did one thing beforehand, which was I submitted an Earl of the Talking Pie short, because I was still doing a lot of Earl of the Talking Pie shorts for myself. And I submitted to a CBC animation contest called Maple Shorts. And what they did is they put a bunch of Flash cartoons online, and it was kind of a contest. You had to vote, and the winner would get a pilot on CBC. The winner was something called...
A talking pilot?
These are the jokes.
Yeah, on live.
The winner was something called Yam Roll. It actually wasn't that bad. I think a VFS student did the pilot. Because some of them were... You can tell that some of them were people who like learned like me, and some of them were like actual animators.
Yeah. Jerks.
But I got my show on TV,
yeah.
Which was kind of cool. I believe it's still on the CBC like YouTube. Don't look it up.
Yeah, don't look for.
But I bought a couple of my Earl Talking Pie shorts on the, and it was just a couple of weeks ago that somebody commented on one of the Earl Talking Pie shorts saying he recognized it from Maple Shorts, and I'm like, what?
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Did you know that? But at the same time, throughout university, I did a multimedia major and a theater minor. Because theater was something that I did quite a lot also. I was big into the theater community and acting and writing and even directing here and there. And animation, again, there wasn't so much. So multimedia had some animation at the University of New Brunswick discipline. But once I got into the Flash cartoon, I was already like above what people's skill level were. And it was like, I wasn't really learning anything in terms of animation. I was learning a lot of design stuff and a lot of theatrical stuff, but not anything in terms of that. I moved to, I did 4 years of that, got my Bachelor of Arts. I I won't say it's a waste of time because it kind of shaped who I am now and the skills I kind of have now. But I wasn't doing any animation. There was years where I'm like, I'm going to start doing more animation, and I didn't do anything. Still a draw. I did comics and stuff like that on the side. I moved to Halifax just because I felt I couldn't be in Fredericton anymore. Moved out there with my friend, who at the time was a professional poker player, and the adventures we got into. But had nothing to do with animation.
Oh,
again,
you can tell us an
well,
adventure.
there's I don't know. There's neither here nor there. If we have time at the end, I will get into some of the zany hijinks. Again, when I got there, I naively enough applied for animation studios, not having anything really up to a caliber of a professional portfolio.
Yeah.
So obviously didn't hear back from anything because there is some animation studios in Halifax, but I wandered into the studio and was like, here, have this disc of stuff that I do.
Yeah, and then they watch it and they're like, thanks.
Yeah. But even it was something. That's not how you get an animation job. So
well,
I
don't
felt.
know. Sometimes some of the people we've worked with, I'm like,
I won't speak for that.
Yeah, I won't. But like you'll get some people who definitely don't know the programs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they definitely haven't been trained. Like they understand animation. Maybe they've just never done any like digital animation. They've just done traditional.
Yeah.
And then when they come in, and then you get their work, and it's like they don't understand how to use the paintbrush that is the computer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does get frustrating.
Oh, I just mostly didn't know the professional process of applying for a creative job like that. You don't just randomly barge into the studio. That doesn't give you a good impression.
Yeah.
You send an email, first of all, seeing if they're hiring,
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So it was. I kind of fell back on acting again, and I spent about 4 years in Halifax at a dinner theater. Acting at a dinner theater. It was very cheesy shows. The dinner theater sadly closed about last year, but it was a dinner theater that had about a 25-year history, right in downtown Halifax. It was a lot of fun. I did a lot. I sang and danced professionally. Nice. For a little while, which was amusing.
Yeah, that would explain your sort of comfort, like out on the stage.
Yeah, well, again, that was as much as I mentioned my animation stuff. Stage was something that was always in Fredericton. The theater scene in Fredericton was very booming, and so I would always do stuff there. I was part of a theatrical troupe called the Calathumpians that would do free outdoor shows for kids during the summer. That was my summer job for about 5 years in Fredericton, and so that was something that I was never shy. I was never a shy. Well, let's rephrase. I'm shy when I first meet people, but I'm weird. You put me in front of a stage, I can distance myself from people. And I can just say whatever the hell I want. Because I'm like, I don't know these people. I know how to
face this crowd.
I learned how to work a crowd. I learned how to do improv and that kind of stuff, which is doesn't so much help me for animation per se, because animation is so like methodically thinking, but it does help with the acting portion of animation,
I would imagine.
Where you're trying to emote a certain.
Yeah, so from the technical standpoint, not too much of an assistance, but mean, you want to know how to make a crowd laugh, and having that history can definitely help.
Yeah, so I kind of had these two aspects of me going, this like really public stage aspect and this hidden life of animation that I eventually want to still get back into. That I'm like, yeah, someday I'm going to do animation. I swear to God.
My lifelong dream.
Yeah. So, yeah, I could go on about theater, but I don't want to really go on again, to kind of focus my talk on animation. I told you before, I'm like, how much time do we have on here? Because
we've got a while. I mean, I'll definitely steer once we start getting on here. But if there's any other anecdotes you want to share about theater,
that'll probably come up. Yeah. One good aspect about the theater scene was and this goes to my university training more so than just the random shows it was in. The guy who spearheaded the theater minor at University of New Brunswick, his name was Len Falkenstein, and he is a playwright that originally came from, I believe, Saskatchewan. Nationally revered. He's very good. And he shaped a lot of my professional attitude on how to approach things. Not only did he really foster me to do directing, which helps a lot with critiquing animation and critiquing art and stories in general, but when it came down to do a theater minor, he really helped me with writing, which I wrote a lot of zany things, a lot of like non sequiturs, and I presented him with a couple of things at a one-on-one meeting, and he read them. He's like, okay, so why are these things happening? And I'm like, because it's funny. It's like, okay, well, what are you trying to say with it? I'm like, nothing really. So like, he's like, he even said I did a couple of writing courses in university. He was the only one who understood that writers have different styles. And he told me, he's like, I'm fine with absurdist style. I'll give you some plays that are absurdist, but they have still a point. They aren't just random things, except for some things are specifically to be. But even those are like, they're nonsense for the sake of being nonsense.
It pushes the story forward.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, you can write about this story about like a turtle playing tennis or something like that, but you kind of need to have a goal in mind. So I took part in something called the Notable Acts Theater Festival, which had a playwriting competition. And they had two categories, a short 5-minute play category that was outdoor theater that had about 5 winning plays, 5 minutes each, and then 2 one-act play winners. That would be about 30 minutes to 45 minutes each plays. And I submitted frequently to that. I got 5 of my 5-minute plays in year after year. And one year, I won the one-act contest. And it really helped me just write with a purpose. And it gave me a bit of a reason. Like, my first play that I wrote was called Do You Believe? The plot of it was there was 2 people at a bus stop, and one person kept saying to the other, do you believe? And the other person didn't know what they were talking about. But the first person would continue pestering him in such a way. And a lot of people were like, does this have to do with religion or a cult? And I'm like, not so much as it is one person annoying the other until they're on board. And then at the end of the play, the person who says, do you believe, doesn't believe anymore. And I'm like, this, at the outward, this is really ridiculous and really surreal and really absurd. But people can read into it different ways. Like, it does have a purpose. And so that, like, really helped me going forward with everything. So I can't, even though these 4 years of my life in Fredericton where I wasn't pursuing animation, I can't look back at them and be like, oh, those are a waste of time. I should have gone straight to animation school. Because those really did shape my kind of sense of humor, my sense of working in creative art, and also just the type of animator I am. So I can't really go back and be like, oh, I should have gone straight to animation. But after spending 4 years in Halifax, I was like, it's about time to actually get working on animation.
Yeah.
And it helped at the time. I recently broke up with my girlfriend. And I was like, I had to reassess my life and be like, okay, what am I doing in Halifax? I'm working at a dinner theater. Do I want to work at the dinner theater for the rest of my life? No, I don't. I love the people who work there, and it's a lot of fun, but that's not what I want to do. I don't have a relationship tying me down here right now, so I was like, let's apply for animation schools. And out of the ones that I've heard of in Canada, because I didn't want to leave Canada, because I love Canada, Sheridan College in Toronto, which I took a tour of years back, was very highly revealed, and that was 4 years, 4-year course. And then VFS in Vancouver Film School. I heard about a lot. And that was just a 1-year program. And a year prior to that, I did visit Vancouver. By that same one-act play that I won at Notable Acts, I submitted to a festival here and got accepted. So I came all the way to Vancouver, my first time this far west. I don't travel that much. And it was, I loved the city. And I took a tour of VFS just the time to kind of see what it was like. And I thought, you know what? I spent 4 years at a bachelor that I didn't really do much with. I spent 4 years just kind of bumming around Halifax, having a fun time in my 20s with my poker-playing roommate, buying things that he doesn't need but want.
He's got all that poker money.
Yeah, man. And I was like, it's this 1-year course at Vancouver Film School is going to be tough. I hear a lot of people drop out of it halfway through. But I'm going to do this trial by fire. I feel I've wasted a lot of time. I was the second oldest person in my class, so I'm like, I'm not getting younger. If I want to do animation, I need to go straight into it. So I dived into that Vancouver Film School program, and it was tough. It was like, you did van arts, right?
Yeah,
and how long is, like, are they 1 year too? Or
that was also a 1 year.
Yeah, so you kind of know. the insanity that can, like...
It's not easy.
You put a bunch of artists in a room together, you gotta have a webcam in there, because it's just gonna be, like, drama.
Yeah.
It's gonna be ridiculous. And now, of course, I try to get along with everybody, but everybody is just like, people are crazy.
Well, I'll say this about my class, at least. A lot of us were... We got along pretty well.
Sure.
I mean, there was a little bit of drama, sure, but nothing like that I'd heard from other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of us, a lot of us had come from work, like a lot of us had been working other jobs before.
Yeah.
Like basically my entire class. I think there's like 1 or 2 people out of high school.
Animation jobs.
Yeah. Like, no, just like jobs, like other jobs. Like I come from a commercial art background.
Yeah.
You know, other people had done a lot of retail. And so they were like, no, we're going to focus on this. And so we had a lot of people just like focus on their screens and didn't really interact that much.
Yeah.
Like it took me 3 terms to get, only in the second semester did anybody actually want to hang out. You know, it was like, and even then it was like pulling teeth.
It was kind of the opposite for us, because the first and second semester was kind of like, oh, we can still have a social life. And then, like, once we got into final film prep, and people just were like, there's a time at the end there. I was also doing Geeks vs. Nerds, which is something we didn't talk about at all.
We'll get into it under your...
Yeah, Geeks vs. Nerds, it was a show, long story short, while I was in Halifax, started up by a man named Pig Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a debater for that. And when I moved to Vancouver, I'm like, I don't want to let go of this. Can I do my version in Vancouver? Kind of a spin-off. And they're like, okay. And I foolishly... decided to do this 1-year course while also producing a live show / podcast.
Wow.
And also balancing, because before I left Vancouver, I met my current girlfriend. Well, I didn't meet, I met her before, but I started dating my current girlfriend before I got accepted to Vancouver Film School. So I was also balancing a relationship with a 4-hour time difference. Yeah. That 1 year was hell.
Jeez,
it was
buddy.
No lie. At the end, like, I shouldn't have done Geeks vs. Again, I can't say that, because that again shapes who I am, but it was not the smartest. I felt like a lot of my projects at Vancouver Film School suffered. I'm working in animation now, so I can't really fault it too much, but there was a time near the end where I did an alternate of doing an all-nighter at school, spending one night where I sleep properly and work during the day, then an all-nighter again, then a day where I sleep properly, then an all-nighter again. It was alternating back and forth, and I've done all-nighters before when I have to finish something really quickly, or really urgently, but doing that much, I was starting to feel like physical pain. Like there was something in my spleen or something around this area that was like jabbing into me when I was doing like digital ink and paint near the end of the process, and I like went to the doctor. They said that it's just stress, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it was not healthy. It was not smart, but I did it.
Yeah, body stress.
And at the end of it all, I have that certificate, or it's a diploma technically.
Yeah.
I keep it above my computer at home just to be like, I did this.
Every now and then you look at it and you stare and like music plays in the background.
It honestly is one of the biggest, most satisfying sense of accomplishments that I've done. And on top of that, I'm now finally actually working in animation. It took a long route to get there, but I've worked now at 4 different studios here in Vancouver. And it just took a while, but god damn it, I'm finally there.
That's awesome. I think that's also how you and I sort of really, quote unquote, met, was because at Atomic, where we were working, you put up the Geeks vs. Nerd poster up.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Self-promotion!
And I didn't know who'd put it up. I was like, oh, that's cool. That Geek... I don't know. In my mind at the time, it was a Halifax production.
Yeah.
Because I used to listen to it back home. I heard it through a different podcast. They were like, oh, you should listen to Geeks vs. Nerds. And then I started listening to that. And I'd been listening to it for like about a year or 2 before coming to Vancouver. And then when I saw it there, I was like, oh, I didn't know there was one here too type of thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, are they showing it here now? Did they move? I don't know. I didn't piece anything together at the moment. And then, you were mentioning how you were the host. And I think that's when we sort of...
It was weird because I've met maybe 1 or 2 people who have listened to the podcast, but usually friends of mine. Not even a random person in Canada have I talked to the podcast about and been like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, and you're from South Africa. And I'm like, I told the other people who helped me produce the show, and they're like, that is random and awesome. That a random guy from South Africa has heard of our podcast.
Yeah, I loved it. It was always, and like, I remember, thinking, like, I was like, because I really liked the show so much and I wanted to do what you did. I wanted to bring it to South Africa.
Sure, yeah.
I wanted to contact the guys and be like, hey, could I use your brand and then we just do a South African version of the show? Because there was kind of a geek culture, is a geek culture there. And I knew of a place I could do it. I had like a bar called Unclass that I could go to that we could have done it. I had a friend who could help me host and we had all the equipment at hand.
Yeah.
But I just don't really remember, except for the fact that maybe I was just too busy with, because I was a graphic designer and just, there's a lot of work in there too. So maybe I was just stuck on that. I don't really remember what my excuse was for not doing it, but I know I wanted it to. But yeah,
they've gotten, knowing from behind the scenes, they've gotten a lot of calls like that from other places. There was a London one that works for a little while, and a Montreal one. I don't want to say too much because some of them might still happen. I think the London one is kind of dead in the water. There was an Australia one for a while, so a lot of people get in touch with them, and not many people follow through.
Yeah,
which life happens. That's understandable. I'm just stubborn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you need to be in I mean, I don't know how many times I leave episodes just like I don't produce an episode for the show. You know, it'll be like a month or two sometimes.
This show that we're recording?
Well,
this one better get out. I'm recording it right now. So
well, don't worry. I mean, if it's recorded, it'll come out.
Oh, good.
The only ones that have not come out, there are some secret episodes that I have.
Secret even from you.
Or lost episodes, I guess you could call them, where we've recorded none. I haven't lost an interview yet. I have had to salvage interviews.
Yeah.
My Charles interview, which is an amazing interview, just
you told me about that one.
Yeah.
You told me about that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one I'm sad. So, yeah, what I'm trying to get at is I understand, like, when you're working hard on a podcast or a show, and especially one with your level of production, because, I mean, you got to rent a place.
Sure.
You know,
the issue...
Get 6 other people
You're saying that people don't understand how much work goes into the cartoons. I'm not saying the same amount of work goes into this podcast, because it doesn't. Animation is like hundreds, not hundreds. Well, maybe. Sometimes.
Depends on the show.
Depends on the show or movie.
Well, and Tip Mouse is hiring, like 300 people? So.
Yeah, but this podcast, there's at least 8 people behind the scenes working, and then there's each show like 12 debaters. So there's a lot of organization that goes behind the scenes. Because it's a live podcast too, like you said, we have to work with the venue, we have to pay the venue sometimes, we have to pay for advertising so we get a good crowd. It's not as easy as people think. It's not we put a microphone, we give them a geeky subject, and they go at it. There's a lot of foresight. And a lot of great people I've worked with, particularly Keegan, my co-producer. I met him when I came here. He also comes from a theater background. Again, that play that I brought here, he was doing the tech for that play. And what actually happened is how it was brought over here. I was sharing the Halifax show because the podcast come out and like, hey guys, check out, I'm a debater on this funny podcast show. And Keegan commented, we became Facebook friends. He was like, why don't we have something like that in Vancouver? At that time, I was already thinking about moving to Vancouver. And I thought, yeah, why isn't there something like that in Vancouver? So I got in touch with Keegan, who, if he didn't get on the ground floor, it wouldn't have happened at all. Because of his contacts, his familiarity with kind of the theater scene here, and his very professional attitude with getting shit done. I'm really the artist of the bunch. I host and I help co-produce, but I can't underestimate the value of having friends and having collaborators for projects. It works with animation too. Like, if you want to get something done, there's no shame in asking people for help. A lot of times people, if the project interests them, would just jump on for free. I know that's the case with certain smaller animation projects. It'd be like, hey, I got this idea. Do you want to do backgrounds? They'd be like, yeah, I got time. Sure, let's do it. So, yeah, what were we talking about?
We were talking about you.
Yeah, Geeks vs. Nerds. Check it out on iTunes.
Yes, I do recommend it. It's really funny.
And you were in an episode.
Yeah, has it been released yet?
Not for a while. We're still about a season or a year behind.
Yeah.
We just released the Northwest Fan Fest 2014 video.
Oh, okay.
And the podcast.
I listened to the show on actual.
Yeah,
because
we've started putting out the video. We've started videotaping them about a little bit over a year ago. So now we're getting YouTube versions out, which is cool because a lot of people bring in props and stuff like that, and you can't really see on podcasts. I think the last podcast to come out was Arthur Dent versus Bilbo Baggins. I think so.
You might be right.
Yeah. Anyway, you're not for a while, but you were in a show.
Yay!
Recently, as recording. Well, not even recently. It was in October. We're recording this in March. But anyway, it'll eventually. We're going to get through all of them.
Yeah. I also understand. I mean, it takes me at least half a day to produce one of these shows. Yeah. And this is really easy stuff.
Yeah.
So, That's if I have to do the art for it too. Usually I just pop on the logo.
Sure.
Although I am looking at putting in video at some point, maybe in the future. So, any other bit of history? I mean, that's pretty much brought you up to Vancouver, working in Geeks vs. Nerds and
I guess I
animation
didn't
here.
really talk about my animation history once I did. I was just like, and then I got into animation, and everything was great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, tell us about the shows you've worked on.
Yeah, VFS
Which ones you're
ended,
allowed talking about? At least.
Yeah, VFS ended like 3 years ago is when I graduated, and it took me a little bit of time. People often say that the first animation job is the hardest to get, and then it's kind of easy from there because people know you. Like most industries, it's who you know.
That does help.
Yeah, networking, entertainment industry especially.
Well, my lecturers would always say, like, yeah, the animation industry is actually kind of small. You know, because
it's
like,
tightly knit.
Yeah,
it's big for other, depending on other cities you go to.
But you do need to know somebody inside that'll help.
Yeah,
you
it's funny. Once you are on the inside, you keep running into the same people or the same. Yeah, once you get the first job, it is a lot easier. Luckily, a friend of mine, Batul, who was in the same class as me, wonderful person and she helped shape my career, honestly.
Yeah.
A classmate of me, we'd spend time after class to kind of dissect her own films. I would give her some kind of points for story. She'd also give me points for story as well as animation, and we really helped each other there. She got hired at a brand new studio called Slap Happy. And what Slap Happy was a lot of old people from DHX and I believe Atomic too, formed their own studio, kind of being like, we're going to do things our way. So it was a very small studio, and she got it on the ground floor. And she kind of gave me a good word, so I got hired there as well. So my first job was on a show called Nerds and Monsters. I was a pose artist, which maybe people know, people don't know, is when you kind of do like the poses from the storyboard in Flash, and maybe a couple other key poses, and then you send them overseas, and they actually do the proper animation. Comes back into studio. There's a couple of revisionists in-house that revise the animation to make sure it's all on point. But it was mostly pose artists, which wasn't so much animation, I found. It's a pose job is...
Really, you're just setting up the keys.
You're setting up the keys. It's not as exciting as animation, personally. But that was my first job, and that went for a good long while. I was actually also working, just because it took me a couple months, I started working as a cashier at Whole Foods. And it was tough. I was trying to do both at a certain point because student loans, I got to get rid of those. And the discount at Whole Foods made food actually affordable at Whole Foods. So I had good food. It actually took me a while to let go of that job. And it was at a point where my girlfriend was like, you have to focus in on your animation. You don't want to be a grocer. So I'm like, yeah, you're right.
After all of that, you just end up being a grocer.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that grossing isn't grossing.
No, but it would be an entertaining end to my, maybe not satisfying end of my career.
I mean, it would be like if somebody trained to be a grocer their entire lives and then ended up being an animator. It's like, oh, whoops.
Sure.
Not where I want to be.
Surprise.
But that happens a lot. Like I had this one friend who studied like art directing, and he now runs blogs. Yeah. Like, he's got nothing to do with
sometimes your career is just, like, takes some turns, and if you're fine with it, then you just go with it.
Oh, yeah, he's making money,
So that was Slap Happy. First season Nerds and Monsters. I took a little bit of time between there. My next job was at Atomic, where I met you, on Pirate Express. That was entertaining because VFS, at that point, only had about a 1 or 2 week program for learning harmony, and Pirate Express was a Toon Boom show. So... Luckily, again, I lucked out with Slap Happy because it was a new ground floor, and everyone was super kind, everyone was super chill, and very understanding that a lot of new people came in. With this Harmony show at Atomic, I believe Atomic didn't, if they did do Harmony shows, they didn't do much before this.
Yeah,
they were hiring
I believe it was one of the first big ones.
They were hiring a lot of new students, especially from Van Arts.
Well, we got in because we had a previous lecturer who would...
Oh, you can bleep that.
We had
a person. You had a person on the inside.
We also had somebody on the inside. But what happened was they weren't really allowed to hire foreigners. I don't know how I did this.
Yes. That's really surprising for me because, again, why the animation industry booms here in Vancouver is because they get a tax break for hiring Canadians. I believe there's only a couple studios in town that do hire foreigners, and you are very lucky.
Yeah, I was very lucky with Atomic. I don't remember exactly, but I know I was in there and I was speaking to Joe, and I got an interview, and I did a test. I did a walk cycle for Esteban at the time. But
I did the same test,
And so I did the walk cycle, and they were like satisfied with it. Plus, I got a recommendation from my friend.
That helps.
And so then, but then they found out that I was
South African.
South African, and so they're like, "Oh, we can't really hire you." And then I'm like, "Oh, but I have an open work permit." But the thing is, I didn't have the open work permit. And they're like, "Oh, you do?" And then they gave me a contract, so I used that contract to get my open work permit.
Oh, you sneaky! Oh,
and then,
man!
Yeah, so that was fun. And luckily we didn't need LMIAs at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, great! It worked in my favor."
Yeah.
Accidentally, of course, I didn't know that's what I was doing.
I mean, you accidentally worked the system.
Yeah, because I said to them, it's like, because I qualified for one, because I did a year's worth of study here, so I qualified for one. So maybe I'm missing like some information somewhere, but from what I understand is, I was lucky.
It was. I think it's getting a little bit better, but the being able to stay in Canada was very tough, especially under Harper. And most of my class at VFS were Mexican. Actually, the Mexicans outnumbered the Canadians, and there's a lot of
in class, right?
Yeah, in class, and my friend Batul, also from Pakistan, a lot of people from the States, one girl from Italy, and lots of times the foreigners are the better animators. They gotta work harder. Like, what can I say? Canadians are lazy, including myself. It's made me so sad because I'm looking at these shows that need good people, and they're turning away a lot of these great talents. And I understand it's a money thing, but it made me really sad. My friend Batul, to close the story, did have to leave, go back to Pakistan.
Is he making any plans to come back?
Now she's married to an American, so I believe she's in America right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
hopefully she gets a visit.
Yeah.
But she's still doing animation, so that's good. So we went to Atomic, and it was really helpful for me was because I had so little practice with harmony. It was still like doing the test. I had to go find my notes and like study up, and even still, I was like, "Oh God, what do I do?" I did not think I would get the job. I did miraculously, and I think it's because they hired a lot of new animators who have never worked in a animation job before.
From what I understand from Pirate Express, they did fill it up with a lot of noobs and a lot of they just needed to fill seats. Yeah. Type of thing, especially.
That's how I got it done.
Especially with Canadians,
it's and I'm quite lucky because when I came in, I didn't think I was that good, and the time spent we won't go into the lengthy production of Pirate Express, but
it was supposed to be 6 months. Ended up being
let's just say I got really good at harmony by the end, and it was such a valuable tool because I can't really afford a harmony license. They're incredibly pricey.
Well, there was a
test license.
You can get. It's not like the Harmony. It doesn't have the network, but you can get a copy of the one before I think it's just called Animate. It works exactly the same, and if you can visualize the network, you can kind of build it. I know that might not make sense, but I don't know. I understand how layers work in Harmony using the network and the layers. So if you can sort of visualize it, you can build the rigs exactly the same way, but you just don't have the network.
Yeah. So it's not impossible, but it was not easy to.
And it's cheap. That's the
plus side. But basically the way I'm looking at it is that every one of my productions that I go on to for the animation, I want to learn something new. And so the first job was just being in an animation studio. I'm learning this. I'm learning posing. Pretty simple job. Pretty cool people to work with. Not very stressed out.
Well, posing is an important job anyway.
It's an important job. Yeah.
Again, it's something that some people might dismiss, but it's
having good poses does so much of the work for you. Yeah. Having strong, really dynamic shots rely on good posing. So it's not to be. I don't mean to undervalue the work.
That's not what I'm saying. It's just in case maybe listeners, because I know sometimes listeners, there are some out there that don't really understand. Animation terms or situations or the construction of animation. They're just learning. So.
But that was what I'm learning a lot of stuff with the first job. The second job, learning harmony, and it was a really cartoony show, so it was really kind of my kind of style that I like. So learning that kind of learning that kind of harmony show brought on to my next job, which was Pirate Express, not Pirate Express, other pirate show, Jake and the Neverland Pirates. Yeah, you were in as well.
Yeah, those were my first two shows, Pirate Express and then Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and I'm like, oh, am I gonna get away from this pirate curse?
Right. But this was a welcome challenge as well because it was a Disney show, relied on very smooth,
very restrictive.
and it was much more detailed character models, and it was Disney property with Disney characters like Captain Hook and Smee, and they had to be really on model. They had to be. There's a lot of limitations, but also a lot more detail that had to go into the action. Every character had to do a small antic, very very not very quick. Can't be zippy. Overshoot and settle. But everything had to have overlapping
a little
action
bit
on
cartoony, but
a little bit maybe with the more cartoony characters like Smee and Captain Hook. But the 3 kid characters.
Oh yeah, they had to be very realistic.
Yeah. So like a lot of the head turns, a lot of the little subtlety actions in animation. We didn't have to do that for Pirate Express. We could do a little bit here and there, but it was so much more detailed animation that after doing Jake and the Neverland Pirates, I feel very confident of doing any Harmony show.
Pretty much. Well, with Pirate Express, I was like one of my favorite tools in animation is smears. I love smears.
Me too.
Smears and multiples.
There's a good Tumblr for people interested in animation resources out there. I believe it's called Smears, Multiples, and Blurs. It's a Tumblr, and they just show stills of smears, multiples, and blurs, and you get to see like. Wow, these are frames that appear for like 1 second, and they're like works of art. Like a lot of the Looney Tunes stuff relied on like airbrushes or brush smears, and they're so beautiful. SpongeBob is a great example of multiples.
Yeah.
So many, like there'd be a one frame where Squidward has like 5 eyes and 3 noses
but
or
the
something
thing
like
is,
that.
it's like when you look at when you watch the animation, you don't obviously pick it up.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that and a good smear, you never notice a good smear, right?
Yep.
Like if
that's the goal.
Yeah. But when you do see it, like when you freeze it and you watch it, and you're like just like getting into the mind of that, just designing the smear. It's like I love it.
During my
it's a puzzle in its own.
Because I had 2 final films with VFS. One was my Flash, and one was my traditional hand drawn animation. I was getting big into that blog during the hand drawn animation, so I incorporated a lot of. I didn't too much like the smears and stuff like that. I did a little bit of that, but the multiples, because of my short snore, had a lot of frantic action and a very simple character. So I had some frames that had multiple arms or multiple heads, and it looked so good. Like, just for one frame, going very fast, you hardly even notice it unless you're trying to pinpoint it out, and it really inspired me to do that kind of stuff. And we could do that in Pirate Express.
Yeah.
We could not do that in Jake and the Neverland Pirates.
And at least in the current production we're working on, which I don't think we're allowed mentioning right now, because I don't think it's been officially announced.
I think it is.
Oh, no, it has been announced,
Yeah.
Okay, well, future one. We're working on future one.
Titmouse.
Yeah, Titmouse.
Yeah, we're both. That is my 4th and final animation job, just to finish my CV.
Well, I mean, what I'm enjoying about that is they're like, oh, put a smear here, put a squash and stretch here, and I'm like, yes.
And that's an example of me still learning new stuff, because that show is also completely different from any other show I've done before.
And it's a Disney show, too.
It's another Disney show, but it's the complete opposite of the other Disney show I worked on. This one is actually closer to hand-drawn animation, because a lot of Flash productions rely on symbols and cutout animation, which, for those who don't know, you make symbols for the head, the arms, and you basically kind of move them around and switch them out for different symbols when you need a different angle of a hand or something like that.
It's basically it's modern day. I'm forgetting the terms now, but it's modern day simple animation, and but simple is not the right word.
It's closer to like Hanna-Barbera, Yogi Bear type stuff.
Because back then they would use a cell, and then they would sort of move that cell.
Yeah, they'd keep a cell still, and then maybe have another cell of a hand that moves or something like that.
and
it's cheap, which I understand. I mean, it's quick.
Yeah, and that's why you'll notice, like in like where a background will be like this beautiful background, but then the drawer that or the door that's going to open looks like it's completely different colored, or so
it's on a cell.
Yeah, it's on a.
But this one is like a lot of redraws, which is close, like I said, closer to hand drawn animations, and I love it. It's really, I wish because you have the image of an animator as animation desk flipping papers. There's no hand drawn animation anymore.
Yeah, not. I mean, there might be
There's
some
here
studios
and
that
there,
sort of push it,
but in terms of TV programs, Flash is so quicker and cheaper, and I understand that.
Yeah,
but
and even doing redraws, like, I mean, even now doing drawn animation, people are using Photoshop on their big Cintiqs now. To do it on paper, might give that nice traditional feel to it, but there's a difference.
I mean, Cartoon Network is still doing some of that, but they rely on like hand-drawn digitally. So Adventure Time is an option of that. Phineas and Ferb, I believe, actually still does some hand-drawn stuff, or did when they were finishing.
Okay.
And so, like, I believe Gravity Falls is also, they tried to do it in Harmony, but I think they went to traditional animation eventually.
Okay.
Again, the
I don't know.
technology
Like,
is
at the
getting
very least, their mouth cycles.
yeah,
were
the technology is getting so good that it's actually kind of hard to tell from traditional hand drawn. But I do know Adventure Time still has like Steven Universe.
It's not to say that it doesn't exist. It's just not as common.
Yep, that's exact, and I understand why. But I miss it,
Yeah,
so I'm glad that this
expensive.
job where I get to do something in terms of that is closer to it. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm really fortunate that all my animation jobs I've had professionally has been something new to teach me, because I'm not one of those guys who are like, I've learned everything I can. There's no matter who you are, you can always learn something new in any craft.
Yeah, I mean, not to diminish any other crafts, but animation especially, right? Like,
there's a lot of different styles out there.
There's constant learning, and it's,
no two productions and no two studios are the same.
Yeah,
you can have two studios run a pipeline incredibly differently. Then you can have two productions at the same studio also doing two things completely differently.
Well, I mean, we're okay. With the other production, I know we can't mention because that hasn't been done, announced. But like,
is that the other one, that Titmouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other, it's not. I'm not going to say the company. Sorry, people. I don't mean to put anybody in suspense, but we'll announce it when it comes out, I suppose.
I mean, we can say there's a secret production at Titmouse.
Yeah, that much we can say.
Every studio has a production that they can't talk about.
Well, I mean, we're just not allowed. If it was announced, I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Totally.
But it's not. I remember I did an interview with somebody about Teen Titans, and they hadn't announced Teen Titans Season 2 yet, and I had a guy, and he was talking about it, and he's like, oh, wait, you can't release that yet, so I had to, like, wait until after Teen Titans 2, Season 2 was up. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, like, I mean, just the productions of those two, I mean, us and Future Women and the guys in the other project, and, like, yeah, like, I mean, we're already, like, suffering a little bit behind on some stuff, right? And they're, like, full scale ahead and you know, producing, like, this, like, it looks amazing what they're doing, right? I don't know if you saw...
I saw a little.
Oh yeah, like,
anyway, let's not get into it.
One of the great things about working in an animation studio is you get to watch the production at the end of it. So they put it up
at Bardell. I got to watch episodes of Rick and Morty before they came out.
Oh yeah, right.
I bragged about that hardcore to my friends. Like, I know what happened.
I had a friend back home who was like, yeah. At first I told him like I've seen the complete like all of Rick and Morty season 2 before it was launched, and then he's like. And then he's like, screw you, whatever. And then he started talking about it on his Twitter. I'm like, yeah, no, I've seen that already like 3 months ago. And he's like, shut up!
I mean, that's the joy of being an animation fan also in the studio. I mean, I haven't met an animator who's not an animation fan.
Well, that's what I want to get into next is basically what animation like inspired you, what animation techniques do. I suppose we were talking about the techniques, but you know, what like cartoons and stuff like really got you to where you are.
Well, we did talk a little bit about how the Newgrounds stuff and a lot of the boom of Flash cartoons online really inspired me in terms of creating your own content. But even, well, yeah, we'll stop that there. But the if I'm looking for stuff that like go to my style, I'm not. I'm an artist. I'm a little bit self-hating, as a lot of artists are.
Yeah, we just have to
so I'm not. I see a lot of great illustrators, and I know that's not me. I can't do very detailed drawings well, or they take me a long time. I like cartoony stuff. I like really stylized things, and that's more of my style that I like watching too. And so I look back at a lot of '90s cartoons that I like watching were stuff on Cartoon Network like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack. Very stylized, yet very strong. Again, the posing on those guys are very strong. The characters are instantly recognizable. Going to the Nickelodeon front, I was a big fan of Hey Arnold. And Simpsons also did this, where every character had a very unique silhouette. And
silhouettes are super important.
But they're so weird looking, and they're so like bizarre, and that's what the kind of stuff that I liked. When I draw my own characters, I rely very heavily on geometric shapes. I did a comic for my campus newspaper called Art and Lit, about an artist and a writer, and they're just kind of interacting with things. And those designs, Art's head is essentially a rectangle, Lit's head is essentially a triangle, upside down. He has like a goatee for another triangle. But those are the kind of designs that I really, really like, because you can draw them so easily, and that, for animation, in terms of character design, is very important. If you're on a production like, say, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, with very detailed characters, you can have that and you can get it done, but it won't be done as quick. and it won't be as easy for the animators. I guess, long story short, that is mostly... I mean, I've been inspired by pretty much every cartoon I watch that I enjoy. Another one that I love is Avatar, The Last Airbender. In terms of storytelling, and its character designs are beautiful. Studio Ghibli stuff I love. Love cheesy cartoons in the 80s, like Transformers, G.I. Joe, Captain Planet to a certain extent. I mean, like I said, I'm such, and I believe a lot of people in our industry are such fans. Like, unless it's a really bad cartoon, there's hardly anything that I haven't been inspired by. I'm pretty obsessive fan of pretty much everything. But in terms
being a cartoon fan,
in terms of what directly influenced my style, I think I can pinpoint to Genndy Tartakovsky.
Okay. Yeah, no, he's very popular, and it's great that he's getting his Samurai Jack reboot.
Yeah, it sucks that his Popeye was wearing a Popeye shirt today. And going back even further, Fleischer cartoons. My hand-drawn film at VFS, I heavily looked at Popeye and Betty Boop as inspiration. Those Fleischer cartoons, and I love them. They're so rubber hosey and zany and really funny in terms of their gags. And I saw this Popeye movie that was blending two things I love, Popeye and Genndy Tartakovsky. I'm like, oh, he's so good at action. He's so good at poses. Like at Hotel Transylvania, the script kind of sucks, but it's so much fun to watch. Oh my god!
With Tartakovsky, he loved Popeye. I remember reading an interview like that. It was like one of his things that's why he got into cartoons.
As a foreigner who I believe his family was from Russia, Popeye cartoons were like one of the ones that he was able to get like early on in his youth. So being able to work on Popeye, I assume, would have been like such a dream for him.
For those of you who haven't watched it, I would seriously recommend watching the Popeye animation trailer test.
It was a test footage, essentially proof of concept. I think it was basically to show what the finished film
what they wanted to look like.
Even if Sony took it down, I'm sure you could find somebody else who posted it.
That'll definitely be up.
It's kind of the same thing with why I think Hotel Transylvania was such a breakthrough for CG animation, which I've never been too keen on. I like hand-drawn stuff a bit more, but I love watching CG. And he was really good because he took off everything he learned from Cartoon Network and those really dynamic shows and applied it to CG. He was like, no, you have to break the model, break the what's the
rig?
The rig. Thank you. Oh, see how little I do with CG. You have to break the rig here. You have to do multiples. Again, that site showed like multiples of like brooms or hands. Or if you go frame by frame at some of Dracula's poses, you're like, that looks weird and it doesn't look right. But in motion, it looks beautiful. So he really...
Which I think it was the problem with like 3D stuff in the beginning. They were like, no, we don't want to be traditional 2D. And he's like, no, why can't you be? You know,
Well, the problem with computer programs, and this early Flash cartoons suffer from this too, is that computers are good at making everything look perfect. And part of the joy of these hand-drawn animations is having the freedom to go wonky at a little while and getting it back to normal.
Well, that's why it's called the illusion of life, right?
And when everything is so rigid like that, it starts looking too computer. It looks too robotic.
But how many times have you seen photographs of people walking, or not photographs, but like videos of people walking, and then like you'll take like a still from there, and then they're like in a weird pose that there's no way in hell they should be standing, but they are because they're moving forward type of thing.
Having slow-mo video is such valuable for an animator. But that's kind of why I was looking for this Popeye, because it was gonna be that kind of cartoony mentality applied to CG. Very extreme poses and very extreme multiples, takes, and all these kind of things. And if Sony doesn't know what the fuck they're doing...
I don't know, man. And then they came out with the interview, so whatever.
Do you know if... Sorry, this is a bit of a sidetrack. Do you know if Genndy is no longer working at Sony?
I don't think he's working with them.
Okay, because I thought...
Because he said, I remember reading an interview with him, it's like he felt it was over, but like nobody had told him it was over, because the thing is, he was trying to make...
I read that about the Popeye feature, but I read after that when Hotel Transylvania 2 came out, and that movie was only successful because Genndy Tartakovsky was directing it. He had a contract with Sony, and he had to do a couple other features to fulfill that. And one of the ones he was pitching was a movie about going inside of a little girl's imagination. and like the mother and father going inside, and it's this crazy imagination world. And he showed some sketches, I believe, on a certain cartoon blog site that I'm not a fan of. But I don't know if he's still there, because these interviews came out after Popeye got canceled, before Transylvania 2 came out.
From what I understand, because now he's looking for another studio, right? So, from what I understand, yeah, he's out.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to have his like clause in him and be like, you have to come back and complete this this film contract. You have to do Hotel Transylvania 3 for us.
I mean, I'd watch it, but I didn't dislike Hotel Transylvania 2, at least. But that had a lot more of that Adam Sandler...
That's what I read, is like, the only reason Hotel Transylvania 1 was successful was that it went through like 3 different directors before Gendy, and Gendy was able to sell it in a way that was palpable. It was the highest selling Adam Sandler movie of all time.
And Adam Sandler didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted very little to do with it. He would just...
And then once it was successful, he's like, oh, I want to write more script and duty jokes!
And you can tell, because, like, the jokes and the comedy in the first one have a very different feel. The new one sort of has that, like, oh, I'm going on an American road trip with my family. It feels actually a lot more like Grown Ups.
Scoo-boopy-doo. Yeah. Oh my god, it's Grown Ups with Universal movie monsters.
Yeah, so that's...
it's...
But again, I didn't hate it. It had a lot of good, enough fun jokes to really just get through it. And
to be honest, I have not seen 2. I'll wait until...
I think we did do a review of it, so...
Yeah.
I think maybe that might also be a lost episode.
Don't advertise it then.
Well, I mean, other podcast episode. Anyway, so we're going to stop wrapping this up.
Oh no!
Okay, so long. Yeah, let's get down your favorites quick. Tell me your favorite book.
Probably a tie between Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Nice.
The entirety of it.
Yeah, the collection, the trilogy of 5.
Well, it's a trilogy of 6 now. I didn't read the 6th one.
Screw the 7th.
It was okay.
No.
Fine. But actually, okay.
No, actually, I don't dislike it.
It still is a tie between Hitchhiker's Guide and Lamb, the Gospel According to Biff. Have you heard of...
No.
It's a writer called Christopher Moore, and he's very, very funny, and all of his books are kind of connected. This one, it's probably his most famous one, is about... and I'm not a very religious guy, so this was interesting for me. It's about Jesus' years that the Bible didn't cover.
Oh, so between like sort of that 5 and
between his
30.
birth and the Sermon on the Mount. And it's from the perspective, the whole plot is that Jesus had a best friend named Biff. He was the other gospel that the Bible left out because the other gospels did not like him. But he was his childhood friend and grew up with him. And so it's really funny. He has, again, Chris Moore has this universe that has these angels. This angel resurrects him in modern day times, keeps him at a hotel room for him to write his gospel, and the angel just watches TV and like and while the angel like wanted to be Spider-Man and stuff like that. And he's writing, so it's between him in the hotel room and him recounting his time growing up with Jesus. And it's so funny. It basically boils down to a lot. Again, I'm not a religious guy. I'm a bit of a spiritual guy. It boils down to all religions are kind of the same. Yeah, is what the message is, and it showed him traveling to like Asia and learning Buddhist. He became a monk at one point. Jesus in the story, and it was funny, and they got really insightful, and that's the kind of the humor that I really like. The ones that have a message or have a point, but also are really hilarious. I like a lot of ones that drop truth bombs at the end. I was going to talk about something else unrelated, but then we'd go on here for too long. So check it out. Yeah. I'm surprised that his stuff has not been adapted into movies.
Yeah. Well, it's the moment you touch spiritual stuff, right? It's especially with
he also has a romantic comedy, a vampire romantic comedy trilogy, which I'm surprised didn't pop up with all this vampire stuff that came a couple years ago. It was called like Bloodsucking Fiends was the first one. Then You Suck, a love story.
Bloodsucking Fiends sounds familiar.
Oh, maybe you've heard of.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it, but
very funny stuff. Look him up. He's good.
Then what about film? Give me a favorite film.
I think my number one film is Back to the Future.
Nice.
Because
you can say the trilogy if you want.
I'll just say one. Okay. I can pin one is my favorite out of the trilogy, so I'll say one is my favorite. I love all 3. I love the whole franchise. But another thing with writing that I really like is setup and payoff, and everything that's mentioned in Back to the Future at one point it plays into either a joke or a plot point when he goes back to the 50s, and it's just so beautifully paced. It's funny, it's exciting, it's big, even though it's confined to like one city. It's has a scale and a scope of something bigger going on, and it's just I have a joy watching it every time. Close second might be Shaun of the Dead or Wall-E. Nice. Just want to throw that out there. To make sure I mention an animated movie also.
Favorite TV show, and by that I mean like anything with live action, I guess.
Yeah, I think this will. I'll go to animation. Honestly, this is something I didn't get into, but why animation is my favorite type of medium is because you can do anything, and your suspension of disbelief is up there. With TV shows, you're limited by budget to make things real, and so I find a lot of TV shows, even though I love like Buffy and like Star Trek and all these TV shows, Battlestar, when they have an effect that's not believable, it rips me out of there. If you have an animated show, it's animated throughout the whole way, so your suspension of disbelief is already like, I believe what's happening to these characters is really happening because everything is animated.
Yeah.
I think my favorite TV show is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay. I rewatch it several times. I keep showing it to people who don't know what it is, or like, Avatar, you mean that James Cameron movie? I'm like, no. It's like, no, you mean that M. Night Shyamalan movie? I'm like, no, god damn it.
Yeah.
So I've seen it so many times, and I think it is my favorite animated series. Probably close second is Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, that's
I really like Adventure Time and Gravity Falls.
I've been enjoying Batman Brave and the Bold recently.
Brave and the Bold is hilarious. Oh my
fantastic.
god, they get away with so much of the Silver Age zaniness. I'm a huge, Geeks vs. Nerds, I'm into a lot of different geeky stuff, so comics is nothing.
And you have to do your research too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right now, Steven Universe obviously is one that I really... Out of all the things that's airing right now, because Gravity Falls just ended, I say Steven Universe is my favorite cartoon currently airing.
Yeah. I can... Wonder Over the Under
is just canceled too. Again, Craig McCracken with the Cartoon Network days. I'm a big fan of him too.
Yeah.
We're probably running out of time, so I'm not going to.
No worries.
Geek out about
that can cover
other
cartoons too. Then why don't you tell me your favorite video
games is tough. I can't really narrow it down.
Just give me one that you know you'll
Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles.
And Knuckles?
Yeah, because when you combine the two games, you get that like super ending where you go into Doomsday Zone as Super Sonic.
Yeah.
Sonic was my first video game playing. I'm a huge Sonic fan, unapologetically.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as if we,
I recognize his games are crap in most.
So if we looked at because you know about the Sonic Hedgehog OC game that you took your name.
Chris, if you want to go Chris the Hedgehog, you will find too many hedgehogs.
Because I know there was that Chris Chen and he was obsessed with Sonic Hedgehog too, so you might be a bit because Wesley the Hedgehog is quite funny.
Yeah,
I'll show you later.
It's a project I've been wanting to do because when I first started drawing as a kid, this is like early Chris knowing he wanted to be an animator, and again, super fan of Sonic. I have something called the Sonic Book, where me and my friends would get together and draw Sonic drawings, Sonic fan art. I want to find that next time I go back to Fredericton and start a blog where I just post pictures from my Sonic book. I can't remember anything I drew, but I know it's going to be hilarious.
Okay.
Other video games I really love, Mass Effect 2. I just did the pacifist run of Undertale I really like. A lot of Dreamcast games, Jet Set Radio, Skies of Arcadia. I was a Sega guy growing up.
Yeah.
Toe Jam and Earl, which I invested the Kickstarter in.
Nice.
It's gonna be good. It's funky as all hell. We didn't get into music,
I can't wait for you to get the game and it's terrible and you're just sitting in front of your computer like crying, but they've got this big smile on your face.
At the very least, I got all the physical rewards already, which was pretty much every physical reward. The Toe Jam and Earl figures are very authentic. I love them.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for your secret origin story.
This was fun.
Okay, well, we're going to finish up here. Do you want to pump out any of your sites?
Yeah, sure. First of all, check Geeks vs. Nerds, because it's awesome. For those of you just living in Vancouver, I also run a monthly trivia night at EXP Restaurant and Bar. It's called There Is No Easy Mode. We have a Facebook group for that. If
you give me the links, I'll put them up on the...
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can... For me personally, I do have a Tumblr that I don't use, so I'm not going to mention that. My Facebook for my animation is facebook.com/moocartoon, M-O-O, cartoon. And my Twitter, where I post about whatever I'm interested in, is @CartoonMoo. So it's Moo Cartoon for the Facebook, Cartoon Moo for the Twitter.
Yeah, so we'll have all the links downstairs in the about.
Downstairs.
We'll
just go downstairs.
Yeah, come to my house, go downstairs, you'll find all the links there.
It's written all over the walls.
Yeah. Okay, and if you want to contact me, my Tumblr is always available for asks, anonymators.tumblr.com. And if you just want to email us, give us critiques or people, whatever movies that you want us to review. Theanonymousanimators@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.